get started here. Shout out to the local 802 band. Everybody give a round of applause. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to get started here in a second, so everybody please take your seats. Up top, some reminders. Please sign up to volunteer for Election Day if you haven't already. You can do so at our lovely craft services table with coffee and donuts. Talk to one of our volunteers. Please visit Gale's website, galebrewer.nyc, for information about voting. You can also visit vote.nyc. And you can also, on Gale's website, sign up for our email list so you can get updates about the campaign and when to vote and how to get in contact with us. All right, I'm going to have Gale come up on stage and kick us off.
Thank you much, Paige. You've done a great job as campaign manager. This is a hardy group with the rain. Nobody else would be crazy enough to do this. But I have to say, giving out literature at the subway station with the amazing high school interns was a pleasure. People are interested in trying to figure out what's going on. There are so many people to thank. I'm not going to list them all, but I do want to say that, you know, for a low turnout election, I think people are very concerned about our city. They're very concerned about our neighborhoods. They're concerned about the world, the Middle East, Ukraine. And the fact that we have so many ideas and people who are committed and concerned on the Upper West Side means the world to me. And I want to thank you. The other day we had, thanks to Hooter, we had a Shabbat table, which I know several people stopped by at 81st and Columbus, with 200 vacant seats. And I think in general, this is a community that pays attention to not just local but international issues. And we are all in it together to try to make a better world. And the people sitting here today, that's what they do. So thank you very much. And it helps to have music. And I want you to know that Kevin LeBlanc is also, in addition to being here today as the director of this wonderful group of musicians, he's also a fabulous teacher at LaGuardia High School. Thank you very much.
All right.
Very special for me. So I first want to introduce the head of 504 Democrats. I know their sign is up here, and I would like Mike Schweinsberg to come up and say a few words about what it means to be part of our city as a disabled New Yorker, and also what is involved. Mike, come on up.
Hi. For those of you who don't know the 504 Democratic Club, it is one of only 3 citywide clubs, and at 40 years old, the nation's first and largest, advocating for the civil rights of people with disabilities. And we're Democrats because only Democrats will address our issues. I can remember being a delegate to the 2016 convention, where we achieved 36 mentions of disability issues in the party platform. Now, the significance of that is 4 years before that, it was 8. 4 years before that, it was 4. But now we have a very strong platform, party platform, benefiting our community. And our community has not been better protected by anyone other than Gale Brewer. I've had the pleasure of knowing Gale from the beginning, when we were kissing cousins at her first race. I stupidly was running her opponent's race. That didn't matter. At every gathering, we'd have kisses for one another, and we continued that for a long, long time. But certainly long before she took office, she was an advocate for people with disabilities. We have a lot of elected representatives that contribute to the work we do. But no one visits our meetings more regularly. No one always answers the phone when we call. And, you know, no one comes to us with legislation or listens to us when we have legislative ideas. We couldn't find a better ally. And as the nation's largest minority and the nation's poorest minority, we need all the help we can get. And Gale is our champion. I can't say enough good about her, except that I want y'all to get out there and help get out the vote on Election Day. Well, early voting all the way along. Thank you very much, Gale.
Thank you very much, Mike. Next we're going to hear from Richard Oppenheimer, West Side Democrat. Not only is he West Side Democrat's longtime CSA leader. Richard, thank you so much.
Gale, I don't think I ever properly thanked you for helping me to defeat my landlord as chief of staff to Ruth Messenger about a little while ago. And you've been consistent. You're a true leader. You're a true leader. It's inborn. It's obvious, and we love you. As for the West Side Democrats, which are formerly three clubs that united as one, we strongly support you, Gale, for re-election to City Council District 6. Petitioning on the street with you, Gale, and the reaction, the need of constituents to speak with you and how supportive you are to them was obvious. Gale, you're everywhere, a voice of integrity, an icon, our fighter, and I'm just going to simply say, Gale Brewer for City Council.
Thank you very much, Richard. Okay, I would like Jessica to come up from the new majority just to say, Jessica Holler, just to say a few words, because she's special person, special organization.
Hi, Jessica Haller from the New Majority NYC. Councilmember Brewer has been a strong supporter in the council and part of the first ever historic majority women-led city council in this country, the largest council to achieve it and the first large city in the country to do so. Thank you for your mentorship to all the women who are coming up and for being part of the majority, and we want to continue to support you. Thank you, Councilmember.
Much thanks to Jessica and the new majority. Now I'd like to introduce Stu Applebaum, who is our Master of Ceremonies. He is obviously head of a very big retail union. He is a person of integrity like none other, and to have him here today is a real honor. Please come up, Stu Applebaum, and be our wonderful Master of Ceremonies. I can't thank you enough for being here. Rainy day intrepid. Thank you.
With this umbrella.
Actually, I'm the one who is honored to be here today. And I'll tell you this, my father was a postal clerk for 40 years. And the slogan of the postal union was neither rain, nor snow, nor heat, nor gloom of night will keep the carriers from their appointed rounds. And that's the way we feel about Gale. There is nothing that will keep us from coming out and supporting Gale Brewer. And we'll talk more about Gale later on. There's a lot to say. And there's so many amazing people here. But one person I would recognize right now, and I'll do it again, is Ruth Messenger, because Ruth is the godmother of so much of what is good about progressive politics in this city. You know, I'm really pleased to be here for three reasons. The first reason is because it's in support of Gale. And that, I think, is extremely important. because she provides the model for what it is we want someone to be in city office. And I'll talk more about her later. But the second reason is this too. I think it's important for Labor to be in the House whenever there is a Democratic Party event. Because the vision of the Democratic Party at its best and the vision of the labor movement at its best is the same. And we also know that when unions are strong, the party is strong. And as I often say to people, there is no Democratic Party in this country without the American labor movement. But there's a third reason as well that it's important. And I think we've all seen that democracy in our country is at risk. And it's incumbent upon every generation to renew and protect democracy in our country. And the way we do that is by showing up to vote in larger numbers than we have been voting, and showing up to vote in every single election. That is the way to protect our democracy, by people standing up and going to the polling places in every single election. There is no election that is not as important as others. They are all important because we are not just voting for Gale, we're voting for democracy when we show up. And we have a few people here who it really makes me proud when I'm able to vote for them, because you've produced some of the best elected officials I've seen anywhere in this country. And I'm staring at one of them right now, and that's Congressman Jerry Nadler.
All right, Jerry!
Jerry doesn't care who you are or where you are. He is going to talk to you about your concerns and maybe rearrange the way you think about the world. And I think that this country would be so much better if Jerry were back as chair of the Judiciary Committee. Next year, we're going to be working as hard as we can to make sure that happens. A friend of mine said today, this year marks the 84th anniversary of the release of The Wizard of Oz. And if Dorothy were around today, and if she were looking for people without a brain, or without a heart, and certainly without courage, I think the first place she would look would be the Republican Conference of the United States House of Representatives. Jerry Nadler.
Thank you very much, Stuart. With that introduction, I ought to sit down immediately. But I can't, because we have to talk a little about Gale Brewer, who is running for re-election a week from Tuesday. I first met Gale about over 40 years ago, I think, when she was working as a chief of staff to then council member Ruth Messenger. And I followed her, and I worked closely with her as when she was council member, then borough president, now council member again. And she's remarkable for her leadership. She's remarkable for the fact that she has trained probably thousands of interns who have gone on to help in government and progressive politics all over this country. She has been remarkable in her leadership. We need people like Gale in the city council. She's remarkable for another reason. Standard career path is you get elected to the council, then maybe borough president. You don't come back to the council. But Gale couldn't give up public service. Gale couldn't give up public service. She didn't want to go into the private sector and cash in. She wanted to continue public service. And of course, the West Side wanted her and wants her to continue public service. And we all do.
Yes.
And it's important to get out and vote for her next Tuesday, or a week from Tuesday. And it's today.
Early voting. Early voting.
Oh, today? Or, yeah, I voted yesterday, in fact. Because the Republicans, under our new leadership, have contrived for the first time in my memory to have us in session on Election Day. So that's why I voted early yesterday. I'd normally vote on Election Day. But we will be in session on Election Day doing God knows what. Under our new Speaker, I fear for our House and I fear for our country, which makes it more and more important that we elect people like Gale this year, and that we elect Democrats next year, and that we elect Joe Biden President of the United States again next year. The alternative, and by the alternative I don't mean Dean Phillips, but the alternative is too horrible to contemplate. Our democracy is really on the line. You know, we always say that this year's election is the most important ever, and it usually is. But next year, our democracy, our continuation as a democratic country, is really going to be on the line. It's going to be on the line, well, I don't have to explain to you how it's going to be on the line, but one of the ways that people don't think of it is that our House is now led by Mike Johnson, who is an election denier, who led 137 Republicans in voting against certifying the Biden election. And if, God forbid, the Republicans should win a majority in the House again next year, even if Biden wins the election, they could refuse to certify it. They could actually, if they have a majority, they could throw it the other way. That's the real threat to democratic government. So we all have to vote for Joe Biden and Democrats next year, and don't forget Gale Brewer this year. Thank you very much.
It seems appropriate that we hear from Linda Rosenthal next, because Linda started her political career as a staffer working for Congressman Nadler. And Linda was elected to the State Assembly, I believe, in 2006. And since there, she's been working hard as a leading advocate on affordable housing, domestic violence, consumer protections, government reform, environmental issues, animal cruelty. She led the fight to eliminate state sales tax on feminine hygiene products and prohibiting the sale of electronic cigarettes to minors. She doesn't take a break, and she's involved in everything where she feels she can make a difference. Linda, thank you for what you do.
Thank you. I hope I can make a difference by being here. But I think everyone here knows who to vote for city council in this area, Gale Brewer. So I really came here to see Mo. And I got a picture memory on Google, and it said, it was a picture of Mo and me here. I guess 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 4 years before. I don't think he's here, but we all love Mo, and Mo is Gale and Cal's son, and he's a macher on his own right. There's not much to say because everyone knows who Gale is. Everyone knows what Gale does. Everybody expects to see Gale at every single event that they throw. And that's because she does go to all of them. And, you know, we're so lucky here on the West Side because we have somebody who has integrity, somebody who knows what they're doing. They're not a fledgling who's going to not exactly know how to represent the neighborhood. And that's why we love and cherish Gale, and we want her to be here forever. And I'm not sure you want to run forever, but as long as you want to, you know you have a place here on the Upper West Side. So, see you at the polls, everybody.
You know, the one who taught so many of us here today how to be involved in politics and how to use politics to make a difference is Ruth Messenger. I mean, no matter what she's been doing, she is serving others. That has been her career. As in city council, as borough president, she was the voice for community groups who were fighting for social change and finding ways to really build a city that was inclusive of everyone and stood for everyone. I could spend the rest of the day just talking about Ruth Messenger, but I'm not going to. But I will tell you that one of my proudest moments in politics was when my union endorsed Ruth Messenger to be mayor of New York City. But there's something that is both good and bad about it. Ruth Messenger is the only woman who has ever been nominated by the Democratic Party in New York City to be mayor of the city. And that's something that's going to have to change one of these days. She inspires us. She has a global vision and she has a local vision. And I can't say enough.
Thank you, Stuart. You all know me very well, and I have laryngitis. I want to thank Stuart. Gale said it, but really, Stuart Applebaum has come to represent in New York and on the West Side what a consistent, caring union leader does to change democratic politics as well as to fight for his members. Thank you. And Stuart said this, but it can't be said enough. We on the West Side, first of all, I think we're fortunate to have had a universe of elected officials, all of whom know each other, occasionally replace each other, whatever. But we are today, as a country, indebted to Jerry Nadler for his leadership in the Judiciary Committee, his leadership on Mideast issues, his determination to stay in this crazy House of Representatives until we get it back. And I'm just going to tell you, Gale has worked with me, some of the rest of you have worked with me. There are races, congressional races, all over the country. So I know it's very nice to be on the West Side, but all over the country we will be doing fundraisers in New York for people who have to keep their seats, and for the 5 or 6 people who have to win so we get back the House. And some of you should get involved in some of those races. There's someplace you came from, someplace where you still have family. Find out who's running there and help us get a Democratic Congress. So I think you all know this, but there are 50 members of the New York City Council, and then there's Gale Brewer. She did it the first time she was on the council, and several people have talked about, and everyone here knows about, her incredible style and record on constituent service. You'd meet people 30 years ago and they say, oh, I think when you were in the city council, Gale Brewer came to my building and she saved us from a bad co-op plan. Over and over and over again, you hear this, she hears this. So you know that. And Jerry mentioned, and the number is real, so I'm just going to tell you, Gale has had at least 2,000 interns in the 45 years she's been in politics, and she keeps track of all of them. And some of them have gone on to great heights in their own communities. It's an unbelievable record of educating people about social change. But what I actually want to say here is that when Gale and I originally worked together, she was all constituent service and local organizing, as she should have been. But she would look a little askance on people who pursued a policy issue, or on the idea of actually having to chair a committee and talk to committee staff, get things organized. But because she's Gale Brewer, all of a sudden she discovered she could do all those things. She pursued brilliant policy issues as borough president. She's chair of the City Council Oversight Committee, which gives her power that she's using wisely to look into everything that is wrong with this city administration, everything. Right now, she is working, as several of the other people here are, against this crazy plan that would take immigrant families who have just begun to become our next New Yorkers, who have put down roots even in a shelter or a hotel, whose kids, thank you Nadeem, are working brilliantly in the District 3 schools, making a home, and these schools have been incredible. Every school in District 3 has welcomed its immigrant families, has provided for parents as well as kids. And the plan of this city right now is to dislocate every one of those families, make them reapply for shelter, possibly move them to another neighborhood or another borough, and break up their school experience. Gale is fighting that with every piece of her energy that she can. And she is also looking to educate this neighborhood about the broadest possible issues, including the crisis in Israel and Gaza. So Gale has risen to the occasion. We've known each other and we have worked together for over 45 years. We teach together in Hunter, and the students think that we are the only thing that gets them up at 8 in the morning on Wednesdays is coming to watch the two of us teach together, and we love it. So I just want to say we are really blessed in who Gale Brewer is, in who she always was, and in who she has become. We're lucky she's representing us.
I can only think that that's the speech that Ruth makes with laryngitis. How powerful a speaker she is with full voice. We have another amazing person with us, one of the newer members of the Assembly, and that's Grace Lee. Grace, as soon as she got to the Assembly, hit the ground running, because her background was as a community organizer, where she had been fighting for issues impacting the safety of our children, tenants, and of the elderly, an issue that becomes more and more important to me every year. That was a joke. Grace already is making her presence felt, and her role is also historic. Grace is the first Korean-American woman elected to the New York State government, and she's been a prominent and needed voice against anti-Asian hate in New York City.
Thank you, Stu. I just remember 2 years ago being here and helping to support Gale on her election back to City Council and to help organize the Verde Square rally. So it's really great to be here again now as an elected official. You might be wondering why I'm here from Lower Manhattan to come and support Gale. Let's be real. Gale is every New Yorker's City Council member. And she is also our #1 and will always be our favorite borough president. So I am very proud to be here to support her campaign. I think, up here on the Upper West Side, there's an incredible history of civic engagement. And we need everyone more than ever, as Jerry and Stu have talked about, to help protect our values, help to protect our democracy. Our vote is our voice. And so we need to make sure that we're coming out to re-elect Gale. We're coming out next year to re-elect Democrats up and down the ballot to make sure that President Biden continues to be our president and to fight for everything that we believe in to make sure America and New York works for all of us. So thank you.
Well, I was a little concerned when I saw Brad Hoylman-Siegel walk in. I wasn't sure if the person he was bringing with him was a campaign worker, and I was worried about child labor laws, but I understand this is your daughter, so they don't apply. Brad was a longtime grassroots activist before he was elected to the state Senate. He's chairs the New York Judiciary Committee, and he's been pursuing progressive reforms in a whole variety of issues, including housing, transportation, public education, LGBTQ rights, the environment, and seniors. And you have to know that Brad is a worker and he accomplishes. Brad has passed over 200 bills, which is amazing to think about. He led the fight to allow survivors to file claims against their abusers through the Child Victims Act and Adult Survivors Act with Assemblywoman Linda Rosenthal. He's worked on banning ghost guns, prohibiting ICE with Assemblywoman Rosenthal, prohibiting ICE in the classrooms, on LGBTQ human rights issues such as GENDA, which was the Gender Expression Non-Discrimination Act, and banning so-called conversion therapy, which puts him at odds with the new Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives. He is a terrific state senator, a thoughtful state senator, and someone who's not afraid to stand up and go for what is right, despite the pressure he may feel from others.
Wow. Thank you so much. Wow, thank you, Stuart Applebaum. I need to have you around a little more often in my household, actually. I am so honored to be here. There is an aphorism in my office, my Senate office, which is, God made rainstorms to give elected officials a break. And my husband reminded me of that this morning. And my response was, have you met Gale Brewer? That said, I love Gale's campaign slogan. Gale Brewer for City Council again. Not a question mark, an exclamation point. And I don't know, maybe we should change it. It's raining on a weekend again, but she truly is a terrific member, not just of the council, but the advice she gives to state and federal legislators. I know that Congressman Nadler and my colleagues from the Assembly agree. I know that Gale's going to be up in Albany tomorrow talking about one of her, is it your favorite topic or your least favorite topic? Probably least favorite, illegal cannabis shops. And and hopefully she's going to rake the Office of Cannabis Management over the coals. And some of us on the other side of the dais are going to learn something about how to question a witness in Albany. But let me say that I am so proud to represent the West Side from Christopher Street all the way up to West 103, and that we have traditionally had the highest voter turnout among any neighborhood in the city of New York. But the last election, voter turnout was 21%, the lowest in recent history. So we got to change that. We got to make sure that we get our friends and neighbors out this week and on Tuesday to make sure that Manhattan, and specifically the Upper West Side, continues to have the voter turnout that we all expect, and continues to have the great representation from Councilmember Gale Brewer that we've come to expect, and frankly, that we should demand of all elected officials. So let's hear it for Gale Brewer. Let's hear it for RWDSU Stuart Applebaum. And let's hear it for the band in that amazing performance under difficult circumstances. All right, see you at the polls. Thank you.
It's a special privilege to be able to introduce the controller of the city of New York, I mean, Brad has been fighting throughout his life as an urban planner, as a community organizer, a 12-year city councilman, and now probably as our controller. I have a lot to say about you, Brad, because you've done a lot, and you've done a lot to really help the members of my union, because when he sees workers in a struggle, we don't go to him to ask, can you help? He comes to us and asks, how can we help? And I know that we'll ask Brad to get involved when group which you've seen called Grow NYC wasn't prepared to recognize our union. Well, Brad reached out to Grow NYC, and the very next day they recognized our union. Now, I don't know if it was just a coincidence, but I suspect otherwise. He was instrumental in the passing of their phenomenal, standing out and calling Amazon to the carpet with the powers he has as controller. And not just that, yesterday morning he was up at the crack of dawn speaking to a global symposium on Amazon, which was being held in Europe. And from all the feedback I've gotten, it was incredibly well received and appreciated. But there's one more thing I can say about Brad that I can't say about anyone else. When we were organizing car wash workers in New York, some of the most exploited people in the city who weren't even entitled to a minimum wage, Brad was there, and together they got arrested. And I really want to suggest, if any of you ever plan to get arrested, call on Brad.
All right, I hadn't expected the, but actually I'll start here. Let's hear it for our MC, for Stuart Applebaum. And I really think this is important for a couple of reasons. We've got a lot of great labor leaders in this city and far beyond. But a lot of the job of a labor leader is to represent the members of your union and fight hard for them, and boy, Stuart does. But seeing that there are a broader set of working people and thinking about how you deploy the power and resources and organizing of your union to expand working folks' rights, that is something that Stuart has really done. Those car wash arrows weren't already in our WDSU. That was a campaign to say, here are working people who are exploited and excluded and don't have a union. How can we team up with community organizations and go fight for them? And boy, the fight to organize Amazon workers, let's be clear, is one of the most important fights, if not the most important fight, for working people across the planet, because we are either going to find ways of organizing companies like Amazon that are trying to deploy technology to destroy good jobs. I mean, they've been quite clear about their model, which is to, instead of having good jobs that people stay in, to have terrible jobs they just spit people out of. And if we let that happen, it'll happen everywhere. But Stuart is helping lead not just the U.S. effort, not just in the American South, but part of a global effort to organize Amazon workers. And Stuart, we're grateful for you. And since we're on the Upper West Side, I guess I'll say we're also grateful for your, with other folks here's, progressive Jewish leadership, showing that not just on the Upper West Side, but all across the country and the world, we've got something powerful to bring to the fight for democracy and social justice. It's great to be here on the Upper West Side. I'm only an honorary Upper West Sider. I trekked here from Brooklyn, but I'm actually, the truth is I came from the Bronx, and the weather today is a little bit of an election blessing in disguise, because even though not as many people will be coming out today, maybe everybody in the Bronx was at home. So when we went to knock doors for Marjorie Velasquez in her city council race, we had a very high voter contact rate. So appreciate the rain at least, because canvassers up there are running into more voters. And I love being up here with this incredible delegation of leaders you've had. Congressman, you've just always been such a mentor to all of us, and the leadership that you are providing in the hardest of times to navigate the travails of the planet and save our democracy is remarkable. Thank you. We're all in your debt. And then to be with Ruth and Brad and Linda and Grace, it really is an amazing coalition up here, and I feel really lucky for it. Ruth was one of the people that, when I was running for city council, gave me some advice on how to do it, and then more recently is working as doggedly to fight for the rights of asylum seekers and migrants in New York City and hold us to our values, but also very practically make sure we do what's necessary to help people land on their feet here is like nothing else. So she came out with laryngitis, despite the fact she's working 24/7. She hosted an event I was at earlier this week on next year's elections. And we're really lucky to have you, and those of us in elected office like Grace and Brad and Linda and I feel really, really lucky and grateful. Okay, everybody's got a great Gale Brewer story. I'm just going to tell my one quick one because I think it shows the kind of compassionate and competent leadership that we're so lucky to have. So it was in my first council term, and Gale was leading the effort to pass paid sick days for all New Yorkers. Hard to remember, but just 12 years ago, we didn't have paid sick days for all New Yorkers. And Gale was leading that fight at the time, and it took a long time to win just getting paid sick days for all working New Yorkers. And I just got into the council, and I thought, I'm going to do something really good. I'm going to make this bill even better. And I knew all these the folks organizing domestic workers. And they were like, Brad, we got to make sure domestic workers are covered by paid sick days. So I was like, great, we're going to organize a rally. I'm going to go talk to Gale. We're going to fight to get domestic workers included in the paid sick days bill. And I get this all set. We got a great rally planned. All the domestic worker advocates are excited to come. And I go give Gale a heads up, and she's like, Brad, shh. Domestic workers are already in the bill, but no one knows. And don't have your rally because you'll just wake up the opponents. Just quietly support the bill, help get it passed, and it all will be fine. And now when I was like, okay, I got a lot to learn from Gale Brewer, who is getting paid sick days fast, who's done this anyway. So that to me is just a great example of her seeing what the issues are, talking to people who have been excluded, you might expect to be excluded, but then already seeing pretty far down the stream to get things done in that just practical Gale Brewer way. That is the kind of competent and compassionate leadership that we need right now, not just in this district, but to remind people what democracy can be and do in these often sour and dark times. So I'm lucky to be one of the many, many people who has learned from Gale Brewer and excited to keep doing it. So please get out there and vote. Everybody's got an election. Don't forget, even if you're not in this district, all 51 council districts, go vote for Eric Botcher, go vote for Justin Brown, and go vote for Marge Velasquez. And obviously right here, go out and vote for Gale Brewer. Thank you so much. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you, Gale.
The rain can't keep people away. We've just been joined by another city council member and one of the people who gives me hope for the future. He's young and he's new on the council, but he's not new to working to make a difference through the council. When he served on staff before being elected himself to be a member of this council. He's been my friend for a long time, and I'm proud to introduce Council Member Eric Botcher.
Thank you, Stuart. Stuart Applebaum, in addition to being one of my friends, has been a role model to me before we even knew each other, because when Stuart, as the president of a major labor union, came out publicly years before marriage equality, that really made a huge impact in the labor world, nationally and globally. So let's give Stuart a round of applause for everything you're doing for workers and everything you've done. And I really want to thank Gale for having this. When I first heard about it, I was like, really in the rain. But I'll tell you, not many people know that there's an election going on right now. Like, we know because we're like quadruple prime voters. But right? But your average New Yorker, they're not too cognizant of the election going on. So that's why it's so important for us to be out here and to really remind people to vote. So many New Yorkers, they vote for president every 4 years. But it's the local election. It's important to vote for president, but we don't pick the president here in New York. Like, let's be honest about it. But they don't vote in these local elections. That's where the votes really, really count. We are at an inflection point here in New York City. We're at a crossroads right now. And I feel it, and I know that you feel it too, that we are either gonna be a city where you cannot afford to live here unless you are a person of wealth. We might have a city where no artists could afford to live here. People won't be able to afford to come here from around the world. Young people won't be able to come here and build a life like I did 20 years ago. Or we could have a city where you could live in the neighborhood you've called home your whole life, and you can grow old in that neighborhood and retire in that neighborhood, and your kids could live in that neighborhood too, and their kids could live in the community. We could have that, and we could continue to be the city where you could come from anywhere with a few $100 in your pocket and scrape it through and make it like I did and so many of you did. It's going to depend on the decisions that we make now. Are we going to do what we need to do to address the housing crisis in New York State? The power is in our hands as lawmakers. In the city council, are we going to do what we need to do to reform land use so we can build housing in parts of the city that haven't contributed at all to the housing crisis? The district I represent, District 3, the Village, Chelsea, and Hell's Kitchen, we've gained more population in the last decade when they did the redistricting. The district I represent and Lincoln Ressor's district, we gained more population than any other districts in the city. I know Gale's gained quite a bit. Some districts lost people. And this is during a decade when we had 630,000 people net population gain. So we need to do in the city council, we have to build in neighborhoods that haven't been contributing to absorbing the population. Our state lawmakers, we have a great housing chair, Assemblymember Linda Rosenthal. They've got a big job in Albany, and this is no joke, because if we come up empty-handed in Albany, we're in even worse trouble, and I know that we won't. I know that Albany's going to come through with, I feel good about good cause addiction. We need to replace 421A, because we do need to incentivize the creation of affordable housing in privately built buildings. That's one of the only ways that we get affordable housing in our district. Housing is just one big issue that we're facing. We've got a mental health crisis that we failed so badly as a country in addressing. We've failed to address mental health in this country to the point where we had people dying on the street from untreated mental illness. In the richest city, in the richest country in the United States, in the richest country in the world. Are we okay with that? So this is what our job is as lawmakers. The good news is that on the west side, you all should know, like, my colleagues, I am so lucky to be part of this team on the West Side. Not only do they work, like, how many hours a week do you think you work, Gale? 80? But it's the cooperation between the lawmakers. I sometimes talk to like city agencies, and they say that when they go to other parts of the city, a state senator will say, well, I don't want to go to that meeting if that person's in it. That's how bad those relationships are. And in the West Side, we say, I'm not going to that meeting unless my colleagues are there, because we're stronger together when we're that close as a team. So thank you all for being here and for voting. I am up for re-election. I have a Republican opponent, and it's the Medical Freedom Party, anti-vax people. But we're not taking it for granted. I'm doing mailings, I'm doing postering, we're doing visibility. Thank you for including me in this rally, and thank you for your support.
We're getting close to the end. I think there may be 2 or 3 more things we want to do. I'll tell you what they are. We're going to ask everyone who's a district leader to come up, and then we're going to hear from Gale. And I'd suggest that the people who are still here who spoke, and maybe we could get a group picture under the banner. And so let's start with the district leaders. Who here is a district leader? Come on up. Maybe one of you can take the mic and speak for all the district leaders.
Hey, Pablo.
Well, we're the 4 district leaders from the West Side Democrats. Richard Oppenheimer, John Wallmeyer, and Janice Oppenheimer. We're missing 2 other people, but that's okay. We all worked very hard and support Gale Brewer. And all of our people here on the Upper West Side. We work very hard petitioning, and we're very excited for the next election. That's all.
And now the ultimate moment of this event, and that is to bring up the person who brought us all here. We've heard a lot of superlatives about Gale, and she's deserving of all of them, and I'm really looking forward to hearing her voice for the next 6 years in City Council. Gale Brewer again and again.
Thank you very much, Stuart. And I do want to say also Steve Anderson is here, head of all the Black associations on the Upper West Side. And I know Ruth mentioned Naveed Hassan, who's on the PEP, and who is an amazing education leader here on the Upper West Side. My comments are similar in the sense that the problems today, I could be wrong, Jerry's been around for a long time, Linda, all of us, they seem more challenging than ever. And it has to do with, they're just very intractable. People are concerned about their safety, they're concerned about the e-bikes, they're concerned about the illegal smoke shops, they're concerned about congestion pricing, they're concerned about the lack of affordable housing, they're concerned about their kids getting an education that is appropriate, they're concerned about the cost of living in the city of New York, they're concerned about not having enough park space. They're just really, and seniors are really concerned that they can get around, that they can afford to be here. We're concerned about our health care, the people who are retirees of the city of New York. I support what the mayor doesn't. And you know, it's a long list. And then of course we have all of the international issues that impact us. What keeps us going is great music. Thank you, Kevin. Great music, great art. I'm serious. That kind of hearing your music keeps us going. So to know that all of you, elected officials, district leaders, community board, are here. I also want to thank Trip Yang, who's here, who's kept us going in terms of the campaign, along with Paige. And all the staff members who make our community a better place. The issues are hard right now. People are not able to cope with what is in front of them. And so whether it's Gale doing the work on the Block Association, we walked around the other day with the person from the health department who's an expert on rats. Just keeping the rats away from people, whether it's the outdoor restaurants or the small businesses who are trying to survive. It's a long list. And so to know that you're here as Mark Diller's head of a community board and on a community board. All of these people are trying to make a difference. We're trying to do it collectively. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I know the glass is very, very half full, if it's even half full. And to know that you're all here to working together, it keeps us going. Because I know that as time goes on, maybe the issues will improve, or maybe we'll have less of them, but I don't know. I have to say, if it wasn't for labor, we would be in much worse shape. All I can say to people who don't understand the importance is, for God's sake, can you imagine getting your child able to get through college? Can you imagine having health care? Can you imagine being able to keep your job when you have issues? If it wasn't for labor, none of that would be possible. So I don't understand when people don't see the importance of unions, for God's sake. I'm here to say thank you. It's pouring rain. You have been extraordinary. And enjoy the rest of the day. And let's look forward to working together. I cannot thank you enough from the bottom of my heart.
All right, Gale.
Brad Hoylman, Siegel, and I just realized that we did not thank Gale for the visible art on West 81st Street on Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
The Shabbat table set up for 220 people who are hostages who need to be served, and we owe huge thanks to Gale and her staff for that kind of work.
Let's get all the speakers up here.
I know you're taking
And then run up.
Because you're waterlogged. I was just afraid that umbrella was going to be flying. That's why I wanted to. Oh, no, I almost got in my eye. Yeah, well, I could see that. That's why I didn't know if you were. I didn't want you to end up being.